Facebook.
Okay. Here we go.
All right.
Good morning. It's time for another episode of Get Real with Real Estate. This is Jack Hallwell, joined by Jameson Melby from RE/MAX Results. Jameson, unbelievable. We are into the month of June. How about that?
Oh, man, isn't that crazy? Spring is flying.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, most of the kids, a lot of them are now out of school. Vacation time. It's also prime time for real estate. So
right.
We appreciate you joining us on the show here again today. Before we get started with our topics, any listings that you want to talk about? I thought I'd drop that on you here. We didn't talk about it beforehand, but I thought I'd just drop it on you now.
Yeah, so I do have some listings that we would like love on. One is over in Wisconsin in Diamond Bluff, beautiful house on the Trimble River. If you go to JamesonMelby.com, you can find that there. Really, though, what we need are listings. Houses are selling extremely fast. I have two pending on Maple Street right now that made it. One was 1 day on market, one was 3 days on market, so they're selling really quickly, and we still have a very low inventory in the area. So if you have a house to sell, right now is an incredible time. Give me a call, and I can give a market analysis so you know what your house should sell for. And then if the numbers work, let's get it sold. So,
right.
Yeah, really good time to sell.
Excellent. Yeah, it is prime time, certainly, right now. So let's get rolling on the show. So basically, how can I ensure I get top dollar for my home?
Well, even in a seller's market, you still want your home to be as presentable as possible. So that would be decluttering the home, painting if there's any rooms that are very bright, where it's a very personalized deal. So the more you can depersonalize your house, the more you can make it appealing to the masses is great. And of course, pricing it correctly. What we don't want to do is price it too high, because then it's going to sit for quite a while. And the feedback from buyers when we're looking at houses that have been on the market 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they say, well, man, this has been on a really long time. And I kind of laughed to myself thinking, well, during the recession, 9 months was nothing to see a house for sale for 9 months, and now if it's on the market 3 weeks, all of a sudden they think something is wrong. So pricing the house right is also another way to get top dollar, because if we have to start reducing the price, then the house you're not doing yourself any justice. You're going to get a lower offer than you would have had we just priced it right to begin with.
All right, Jameson, kind of building on that, how do you figure out what my home is worth and what a house is worth?
Well, what I do, my process is I do a market analysis. So what I do is I pull comparable properties that have sold ideally in the last 6 months, and I look at the competition that you have to beat for your home to get picked by a buyer. So then I put that all into a report. It breaks it down by square feet, bedrooms, bathrooms. You can see yourself what the comps are and compare your house to those, because really at the end of the day, that's what we're doing, is we're using past data to predict a future sale, and again looking at the active data and seeing what price do you have to be to make sure that your house gets picked. So that's called a market analysis, and I do those for free. If anybody wants to know what their house is worth, give me a call, like I said, and I can get that figured out for you.
All right, here's a scenario for you, Jameson. Neighborhood homes are selling. A neighbor's home is selling. Mine is not. Why is that?
Price. That's what it comes down to. So again, I talk about there's only really a few reasons why a home doesn't sell, and it all really boils down to that, because the reason a house wouldn't sell would be poor condition is one thing. Bad location, maybe you have a hill in your backyard, you don't really have a flat yard, your driveway is sloped. We see that on Brooks Avenue, for instance. They have a lot of steep driveways. So therefore, again, it all comes down to price, because if your house isn't selling, purely what that means is that a buyer does not see the value in your house, and they're picking other houses that they feel are a better value for them. So that's what it comes down to. And sometimes, maybe you can do some updating, you can do some things to put it in that range, but at the end of the day, does that really make sense? So we just have to look at every house individually.
Right. Okay, Jameson, another scenario. I have large acreage, so how can we get my home sold?
Well, there's a couple of ways we can do it, and one is listing it with all of the land and just seeing if there's somebody out there who wants a house in the country, that much land, and can actually afford that. Because when we have houses that are 30 acres, 60 acres, 100 acres, it's really a very small percentage of the home buyers that are actually able to afford that. So we can put it for sale that way, or you can list it maybe with 5 acres and then list your land separately and try to have somebody buy the land separately. Again, that doesn't always work for everybody, and what's interesting is this morning the MLS multiple listing service came out with a note to the agents that now we can run 2 listings on the same property if it matches certain criteria. So that would be, let's say you have 100 acres and we want to run your house as one listing number with your house and the 100 acres for sale for a certain price. And then we can test it and run your house in 10 acres, let's say, for a much reduced price as a separate listing number. That way, if people are looking in certain price ranges, they have auto searches set up. You can hit those different people. So that's one thing that finally the MLS has wised up on, and they see the value in that. So those are some scenarios on how we can sell your house with acreage.
Good stuff there, Jameson. Part 2 is coming up, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Action Jack Caldwell and Jameson Melby with you. This is Get Real with Real Estate here on KWayne 106, Part 2, right around the corner.
All right. Part 2 coming up, guys. Stay tuned.
Okay, my friend. I think we're ready to go here. Oh, I'm going to do the time-saving thing here. It won't take too long.
Sounds good.
All right, let's see here. All righty, sir. Okay, so... All right. Okay, so...
Jack is working some of his magic
Yeah.
behind the scenes. Good old view. There he is.
All right. Here we go.
There's the man in Dunk City. All
Yep.
right.
In honor of my daughters going to school down there.
Do you have the Aces shirt on?
I do. So I'm a man of many teams.
Go Aces.
Having a good year. Having a good start. They beat Meadville, which that's always a feather in a baseball cap, baby.
Well, people ask me why I'm a Bay City Bombers hater, and I say I'm not a hater. I like going and watching the games. It's just that I have to root for the hometown team. You know?
There you go.
Go Aces.
All right, my friend. All set.
Part 2.
Part 2 coming up.
Right up.
Here we go. All right.
All right.
We're back now with part 2 of Get Real with Real Estate here on KWayne 106 on this Saturday. Jack Caldwell joined by Jameson Melby from RE/MAX Results. Part 2, Jameson, away we go, my friend.
Let's do it. We have
All
some
right.
buyer questions here.
Yes, we do, and this will be an interesting segment on the show. Now, what steps should I take as a buyer to find my first home? Because everybody has to have that first home.
Yeah, definitely. I've had first-time home buyers that are 19 years, or actually 18 years old. One gentleman is 18, all the way up to in their 60s. So if you never bought a house, you're a first-time home buyer. Now, the steps are a little bit interchangeable, but really one of the best things you can do is meet with a real estate agent first. They'll explain everything from start to finish on the process. That way you're educated. And then what you want to do is, right after that, or even before that, is meet with a loan officer, because one thing I've learned is that it's better to find out you can't buy a house now then after we've looked at 15 houses and you find the right house you want, then finding out you can't buy a house and you have some credit repair to do. So really get pre-approved with a loan officer, and that does a few things. One, you don't have anxiety looking at houses. Two, you know what price range to be in, because even my pre-approved buyers, the loan officer will send out a letter and say you're approved up to, let's say, $220,000. And then I talk to the buyer, and they have 4 houses they want to go see in that 200 to 220 range, and then they say, I want to keep my payment below $1,300. And I'm like, whoa, back up here. So what we need to do is we need to look at the monthly payment, look at certain price ranges in the area, and see what are the taxes for that house that you might be interested in, and look at the payment, because oftentimes there's a difference between your ideal monthly payment and what you're approved for. Just because the loan approval says you can pay this, you have a better grasp on your finances and what you really can afford. So what we don't want to do is make you house poor. So again, get pre-approved, and then we'll look at the certain price ranges. So you might have wanted to buy at 200, but really for your financial situation, we might be better looking around 160. So it's better to know that up front before we go look at houses. So that's why getting pre-approved is such a big step.
You bet. A lot of moving parts there, so a lot of
Yeah.
things to consider. So, am I paying too much for a home right now, current situation?
Yeah, so we're at the top of the peak, we believe, in the real estate market. And one concern that some savvy buyers have is, am I paying too much right now for a house? And the main question I ask is, when do you intend on selling this house? If the answer is next year, 2 years from now, you have to move for a job relocation, you know something is coming, then honestly it may not be the right time for you to buy a house, because a year or two from now there's a strong likelihood that the house may not be worth what it is today. Now, if the answer is you're going to stay there for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, well then yes, buy the house now. Interest rates are good, house values are going to go up and they're going to go down in cycles throughout time. So let's say you own a house 20 years, you're going to see buyer's markets and seller's markets during that period of home ownership, but it only matters when you go to sell. So like during the recession, people bought houses pre-recession, they let their house go to foreclosure because it wasn't worth what the other houses are worth in the neighborhood. Bad decision, because guess what happened? Now they've been renting for, let's say, 5 years because they let their house go to foreclosure. They can't buy a house right now. Their house value is back up greater than what it was then. So now those people would be saying, oh man, like I have all this equity in my house. But instead they bailed because of what it was worth then, which did not make any sense. If they didn't have plans on moving for 10 years, 15 years, why on earth would you let go of that house? Because at this point it's not worth this. So again, it's all about cycles and when do you plan on selling. So again, if you're buying now, you're staying 5-10 years, you're fine. If you're buying now and you have to move in a year or two, probably not a good decision. So again, we just look at everybody's individual situation and make good decisions based on what your situation is.
Absolutely, Jamison. Now, when we take into consider financial things, obviously that's huge when you're buying a home, your biggest investment you'll ever make. How do I know what my monthly payments will be?
Most loan officers I work with have loan calculators. So what we can do is, whether you're doing a 0 down USDA loan, 3.5% down FHA, 5 to 20% conventional, we plug those numbers into the loan calculator. So it shows your estimated homeowner's insurance, shows your property taxes, and then the principal and interest on the loan. And then we look at what your monthly payment is. Because again, just because you're approved to 220 doesn't mean that's actually the price you should be, buying a house at. So we look at the loan calculator, make sure that correlates with what you're comfortable with for a monthly payment, and then we look at houses in that price range.
All right, excellent. Finally, do I need a lot of money to buy a home? Of course, if you have cash on hand, it's always good. It's more of a down payment. Your monthly payments will be less, but bottom line, you need a ton of money to buy a home.
Yeah, so the answer is no. And again, it depends on each person. So let's say you own a house now and you want to buy an investment property. You'll be putting most likely 20% down on that property. Now, if you're a first-time home buyer and your income qualifies, which most people do, you can do the 0 down USDA. So if you're doing the 0 down USDA, you really you need $2,000. You can get away with a little bit less than $2,000, but you have your earnest money, which is typically $1,000. You have appraisal fee, which is around $500, inspection at $350, radon test at $150. So that puts you at $2,000. Now, if you're going to go buy a rental, if you're going to move into a rental property, let's say your monthly payment for the rental is $1,000. You have to put $1,000 down as a damage deposit, $1,000 for first month's rent. That's $2,000. You get no ownership. You move out 5 years later, you get absolutely nothing for that. Therefore, when I say that I can get you in a house for less than rent, that's true, because your payment is less, you get tax benefits for owning a home. So really, if you can buy a house, and again, if you're going to be in it longer than a few years, makes total sense. Buy a house.
Well, you're right, Jameson. That's the exact same scenario my wife and I faced back in the, I'm going to date myself, early 1990s.
Early 90s.
Yeah, going back a ways there for sure. So if people want more information, all right, tell us your contact info.
Yeah, so you can always find me on the web at JamisonMelby.com. You can even plug Jamison Melby into Google. It'll pull me up. My cell phone number is 651-764-8933. And if you're watching this on Facebook or you're a Facebook person, you can look me up at Remax Results, Jamison Melby Real Estate.
You know, I'm thinking, Jameson, before I let you go, back to the early 1990s, the season we bought our first home, it was fall of 1992. Brett Favre was beginning his first year as the quarterback of the Packers.
Wow.
That was a while ago.
Man.
Yeah, I know.
Back when carpets were green and maroon, right?
Back in the day.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
hey, we'll see you again next week. Thanks for your time as always.
Yeah, sounds good, sir.
All right, little real estate history there, folks. My goodness. All right, for Jamison Melby, I'm Action Jack Caldwell. That's it for this week's edition of Get Real with Real Estate here on KWayne 106. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.